Hello guys, Nanashi here. The protagonist is the 666th resurrection of the Demon King, and was therefore nicknamed 666. His dark companions depend on him to get out of hell, but instead of helping them, Six changes his name to God, and creates a new identity to live among humans. Our story begins by recounting the last battle between the Demon King, 665, and a pure clan warrior. As usual, the hero sacrificed himself to defeat the Demon King, and thus save humanity. The world becomes peaceful once again. The only certainty everyone has is that this story will keep repeating itself. Once more, a new Demon King will emerge, and a new hero will have to destroy him. The demons, from the depths of the underworld, anxiously awaited the rise of the new Demon King to free them from the dungeon. A few years have passed since the last Demon King's defeat. The scene shifts to a castle in the demonic kingdom, shrouded in black magic. A guard arrives in desperation to speak with your majesty. He kneels and reports that Six has escaped from the kingdom of demons. Your majesty asks what he means, and the demonic guard immediately shows a letter left by the Demon King himself. In the letter, Six declares he has stopped being the Demon King and tells the idiots not to look for him. A few hours later, in a quiet part of the Green Kingdom's capital, a white-haired young man gazes at a castle in awe. This young man is our protagonist, Six. He's thrilled to see a human castle in person, even jumping for joy. However, something atop the castle troubles him. Six somewhat hates the cross placed there by the current king. Just then, the castle. Guards spot him and demand to know who he is. The protagonist prefers not to identify himself as the Demon King and decides to assume a human identity. He promptly introduces himself as God. Suddenly, a loud voice shouts, asking how he dares to speak God's name in vain. The man then asks if the protagonist realizes whose capital this is, the Green Kingdom. That man is the commander of the castle guard, and his name is Pro. He advises the protagonist to leave immediately if he doesn't want to get hurt. Six simply asks if the Green Kingdom is strong enough to accept him as its king. The commander grows furious when he sees that the protagonist has not only insulted the name of God, but also wants to seize the kingdom for himself. At that moment, Pro decides to attack Six and orders the other soldiers to charge, but the commander's face suddenly becomes grim. The guards stare at him in fear. Six proceeds with his assault using black magic, causing several soldiers to lose their heads. The protagonist leaves no one alive. Soldiers on the castle walls try to shoot arrows, but Six erects a protective barrier, emerging unscathed before striking down the men in front of him. Their bodies are hurled away, leaving a red trail on the ground. The protagonist walks over the corpses while uttering a prayer. Meanwhile, inside the castle, the guards rush towards the king to report the situation. Suddenly, a noise at the door draws everyone's attention. The guards stand ready, but the protagonist breaks down the door with the snap of his finger. Six uses black magic to consume everyone there, except the king. The soldiers' bodies are corroded, and they scream for help. Six observes what's happening before him. The bodies around them starts to shatter, and he smiles darkly. Just then, a man exuding a powerful aura appears in the royal court. He holds a sword while praying fervently. The warrior calls on God to destroy evil, then pulls his sword from its sheath. He leaps at Six with a blessed blade, ready to strike him down. The protagonist notices the glow emanating from this man and asks if he's part of the pure clan he's heard so much about. The warrior replies that he doesn't know who the intruder is that broke into the castle's defenses so easily, but he knows he must defeat him for using black magic. Six realizes that, up to now, no one suspects he is the Demon King. The warrior then answers the previous question. He is not from the pure clan. Otherwise, he wouldn't be struggling with this threat. He charges at Six, tearing up the floor as he moves. The protagonist casually blocks the attack with his hand, gripping the blade and asking if that's the best he can do. At this point, Six mimics the warrior's prayer and taunts him, wondering which of them God will answer first. The warrior did not expect such boldness. Taking advantage of the man's surprise, Six strikes him in the chest with his hand, then rips out his heart, telling the warrior never again to mention God in his presence. The man collapses. Six turns to face the king. A few soldiers step forward to protect their ruler, and the protagonist is surprised to see anyone still alive. Furious, the king demands to know how just one man could inflict such devastation. He had assumed an entire gang of criminals was attacking. The king realizes how dire things are now, that only his final line of defense remains. Taking a deep breath, the king asks who the protagonist is. Six smiles upon recognizing the castle's ruler and says he just wants to talk. A guard interrupts, asking how he dares address his majesty in such an improper way. The protagonist points at a few men with his finger, and they are instantly destroyed. He then looks at the remaining guards, asking if anyone else wants to complain. The men notice the range of Six's magic and how lethal it is, so they prefer to stay quiet. At that moment, Six closes the distance between himself and the king in less than a second, appearing right in front of the monarch's face. The king, terrified, says he's willing to give the young man whatever he wants. Six didn't think it would be so easy. He laughs and asks how the king plans to grant that. The king shouts that it's impossible. Irritated, since the man just offered him anything, Six threatens to finish him off and claim the entire royal family, thus taking the kingdom for himself. The king misunderstands and believes that Six is there for his daughter. Six retorts that he doesn't even know the king's daughter, nor is he interested in anyone. The king insists that his daughter, April, is the pride of Dr. Ross and the flower of the royal family. The protagonist says he doesn't need anyone's daughter. What he wants is the royal family's power. Then he wonders why he should accept something that isn't even the king's to give. Six becomes angry, asking if everything in this place truly belongs to the king, and the man replies yes. The protagonist's eyes glow red, and his wings appear. He demands to know if the king created this kingdom himself or took it from someone else. He accuses the king of sitting on that throne for years, living comfortably. Six declares it's time for him to step down. The king tells the protagonist the Holy See will never acknowledge him, even if he does abdicate. Six starts laughing upon hearing this. He grows so furious that he sets the castle on fire. There's a huge explosion. The protagonist watches the king consumed by flames and realizes how easy it was to kill this man, deducing that the king was definitely not part of the pure clan. Six looks up at the sky and tells God he's disappointed. None of these people were prepared to face him. Right after that, a bright light engulfs the burning castle. The protagonist remarks that it will still be a while before the pure clan awakens. After all, his return to the human world was supposed to be 20 years. Later, now he's annoyed that there's no one left who can offer him a decent duel. At that moment, Six hears a woman scream. He turns toward the sound and sees a crying girl. She keeps asking Six what on earth he is. The scene cuts to the past. After losing their first battle, the surviving demons felt they had no choice but to transfer the Demon King's soul into a new body. They poured all their magic and curses into him for 100 years. As a result, the birth of a new Demon King occurred, triggering the second battle. Fueled by intense rage, the demon invaded the land, but encountered yet another mighty hero. Again, the Demon King was defeated. Nonetheless, the demons persisted and resurrected him 100 years later. This cycle repeated itself many times, as a new hero would always appear. It happened 665 times. The demons were confident that the story of a hero who saves the world would finally end after the protagonist was reborn as the new Demon King. Once Six was declared the new king, they believed the day would soon come when he would bring suffering to all mankind. But the protagonist fled the demonic realm, leaving behind only a letter calling them idiots. He escaped with the intention of blending into human society. Returning to the present, the girl screams, calling the protagonist an evil sorcerer and demanding to know what he did to her father. Six has no idea who this hysterical person is. Suddenly, he remembers the king mentioning his daughter, and he realizes who she must be. Six calls her Princess April and says she should be next in line for the throne. She asks why he's saying that. At that moment, Six snaps his fingers, casting a spell on April. She falls to the ground, hypnotized, and he declares that from now on, she is his servant. Six flies toward her and boasts that he already has his first human under his control. Holding her chin, he warns her to leave before she loses her eyes. Their conversation is cut short when a purple rift appears nearby. A voice says, "There's no way such a powerful presence could remain hidden from its lord." A man in purple named Alex steps out of the crack, announcing that her loyal servant is at her service. Six angrily asks if Alex followed him here. Alex replies that she couldn't just let him run off. Bia comments that Alex served Six's father, not him. The man states that this is the new form of the Demon King, and he must follow his lord wherever he goes. The protagonist says Alex should leave because he's not going back to the demonic kingdom. The servant replies that he will respect those, orders and tells Six to carry on with whatever he was doing. Then he asks what Six had in mind. Alex speculates that perhaps the protagonist meant to plant his seed in the girl. He sounds excited, saying he practically raised Six. He was both a mother and a teacher, ever since the Demon King needed an education, including the time when the protagonist was placed in an awakening chamber. Six is shocked and asks if Alex was the one who locked him up. Alex continues explaining that he cared for the Demon King since he was a baby and is now eager to see him take an interest in a woman. Six demands Alex stop fooling around and reiterates that he will not be the Demon King. From this day on, he just wants to live as a normal human. Alex smiles, promising not to interfere with his decisions. Six remains suspicious, and Alex asks why he's being distrusted. He starts hitting Alex, who says he's sure the man wouldn't let him live a peaceful life like that. Alex yells, asking if there is any reason for Six, the protagonist, to invade this particular kingdom. Six doesn't understand where Alex is going with this. Alex insists he must be right. Maybe the Demon King felt affection for this land, or maybe he was just in a bad mood. Six grows thoughtful and replies that he doesn't have any special reason. He just wants to live as a human and thought it would be good to be king. Alex claps his hands, saying that's exactly why he's the king of demons. He points out that Six fled the demonic kingdom, invaded the human kingdom, and kidnapped the princess. That's exactly what a demon king would do. But Alex also recognizes that the protagonist wants to live as a human, so he then says that now that Six has abandoned the position of Demon King, he will take Six's son and return to the demonic kingdom to raise him as king. Six doesn't understand how Alex concluded he would have a son. Alex continues, saying that if the protagonist cooperates, 20 years from now, his son will be the Demon King and command the kingdom of darkness. Six looks at Alex, then turns his face away. April is still eyeing him. Six quickly composes himself and says he cannot have children because he's only 80 years old. He still has to enjoy his youth. Alex tries to convince him to change his mind, but Six fires a bolt of lightning in his direction, screaming at him. Alex dodges just in time. The lightning is so strong that it travels several meters, destroying everything in its path. Six accuses Alex of trying to deceive him into going back to the demonic kingdom. As Six complains, Alex realizes that the protagonist's demonic power isn't yet complete, but is already formidable. This reassures him that Six has surpassed all the demon kings before him. Alex believes the demonic kingdom can finally defeat humanity. At that moment, the protagonist says Alex is right. Becoming a king could draw a lot of human attention. That's why he's changed his mind. Alex looks at him hopefully, until Six declares he's going to become a warrior. It's hard to believe that the protagonist wants to become the very thing that defeats the demonic kingdom every 100 years. Then Six changes his mind again and says he will be the companion of a warrior. He figures if he just picks a random person to be the warrior and follows that person, he'll achieve his goals. Six gets excited about his perfect plan. Alex tells him to pull himself together, noting that if there is no demon king, there can be no warrior. Six simply says he needs to find a warrior immediately. He starts to leave, and Alex asks what to do with the princess. The protagonist tells Alex to handle it. The man grows angry about having to solve everything alone, but knows he needs his power to accomplish his goal. So he casts the magic on the princess and apologizes for it. Alex takes on a different form, and says he's sure the Demon King will forgive him too. The scene shifts to a bit later, where Six is lying comfortably while Alex drives. Six complains about using horse-drawn wagons when they can fly. Six replies that he doesn't want people to discover he's the Demon King. Alex points to the burning castle and suggests he could keep a lower profile if he stopped drawing so much attention. The protagonist says this isn't the time to blame him, and the servant asks whether he really plans to become the captain of a warrior. Six says yes. He wants to use a warrior as bait, basically to hunt monsters like a normal human until he adapts to society. He might even get rich doing that. Alex comments that it won't be so easy to get rich in human society. Six says they used to stay behind the scenes, eliminating a few dragons or something like that. He's sure it won't be hard to mount an attack with a demon king and a high-ranking demonic servant. Alex is less convinced. Six asks if Alex knows how human society works. Alex explains that people are divided into levels: Class A, Class B, and the best are in Class D, known as Dragon Slayers. Six is surprised that killing a dragon alone is enough to earn that title. Alex says that at present, dragons remain neutral between humans and demons, so those called Dragon Slayers are recognized as very powerful. There are also giant killers and elite assassins. Six asks, confused, why there are so many classes. He's overwhelmed by the information. Alex replies that there may be other levels he doesn't even know about. Supposedly, all of it was established by the Warrior Management Division of Santa Sé. There is also Class F, for those deemed defective. The higher classes are backed by the kingdom's nobility, while defectives get no support and are viewed as a nuisance. Six remarks that he never knew humans could be so cruel. Alex then says, there's something more important to a warrior than class: being born pure. Six grows intrigued and asks if that refers to the Pure Clan. Alex nods and explains that 80 years ago, a warrior and a saint were humanity's first saviors. They had children, and the family spread across the land, continuing a sacred bloodline known as the Pure. People are tested, and the purer their red liquid, the stronger their powers can manifest. The one with the purest blood becomes the ultimate hero, who will fight the Demon King in a total of 665 battles. The hero was victorious. Six realizes why humans care so much about maintaining a pure lineage. He's annoyed, since this rivalry got him imprisoned for 80 years. Alex responds that it's the king's duty to stand in the way. Six says that this concept caused problems for the last 1500 years. So now, he only wants a simple life like a regular human. Six lies in the wagon, looking at the sky. Suddenly, a butterfly flutters across his face, and he asks what it is. Six is so fascinated, remarking that they look like flower petals coming to life. Alex glances at them and explains it's called a butterfly. The insect lands on Six's finger, and a strong wind blows, causing it to fly away. Alex watches as Six seems like a child playing. The protagonist asks what happened, and the servant tells him it's just the wind. Six recalls that ever since he arrived in the human world, he's felt this cold breeze on his body, something that never happened in his 80 years in the demonic realm. He looks up at the sun and asks about the bright circle that hurts his eyes. Alex patiently answers all his questions. Six wonders how Alex knows so much. Alex explains that he is part of the reincarnation of the 7 demon stores, born to serve the king. Six looks around and says he loves this place. He asks if the other demon kings never experienced anything like this. Alex explains that normally, the demon king only appears in the human kingdom after a century, and then heroes defeat him almost immediately. Six is glad he arrived 20 years ahead of schedule. He's certain life here will be better than life as a demon king. Alex glances over, silently judging Six's attitude. Six climbs back onto the wagon, announcing he's going to sleep, and tells the servant to drive carefully, because neither of them would survive if they went back to the demonic world. Alex simply acknowledges. A few minutes later, the servant wakes Six and tells him they have arrived. Alex says that, as Six requested, this is a distant little village called ᴅᴇᴍᴏ with minimal trade or military presence. Six, still groggy, agrees that it doesn't look too bad. They walk among the villagers, and Alex points out that there are only 2 clans here, one that's almost Class G, and another that's barely above the bottom rank. Six asks if there's no Class D in this village, and Alex replies no. If any Dragon Slayers were around, it would be a problem. Six is startled and asks if Class D is really that strong. Alex confirms it is. Just then, they notice some villagers talking about how a dragon attacked the nearby castle of Trier the previous day. A red-haired woman warns that the dragon is still in the area, so nobody should travel to Trier for now. A man in a blue shirt says he believed dragons were extinct. Six recalls Alex saying that dragons were neutral, so he asks him about it. The servant replies that it has been 80 years since he last set foot here, so something must have changed in that time. A few minutes later, the pair finally find an inn to rest. The owner greets them cheerfully, and Alex asks for the best suite. The owner seems pleasant on the surface, but thinks to himself that these country folks likely have no money for a good room. Then Alex shows him a chest full of treasure stolen from Acom Castle. Realizing his mistake, the owner immediately tells an employee to prepare their suite. The flustered worker trips on the way, but quickly recovers and introduces himself as Zik van Rolevite. The caretaker starts going upstairs with their bags, while Alex mentions that everyone in the village is talking about the attack on Castle Trier. Zik replies that they needn't worry, because the village has a prestigious hero clan that's almost Class G. Alex nods. Zik opens the door to the best suite at the Golden Inn and tells them he'll be available if they need anything. At that moment, the protagonist interrupts, asking if he's from the Pure clan. That's all for this video, everyone. If you had a good time watching, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you'll catch the next part of this story. Thanks a bunch and see ya.